Sa ating pagharap sa pandemyang ito, karamihan sa atin ay nakakaranas ng iba't ibang sintomas ng pagkakaroon ng di malusog na kaisipan. Dulot ito ng iba't ibang factors katulad ng societal pressure, financial problems at marami pang iba. Mas nahihirapan tayo dahil nga iilan sa atin ay di komportable sa kanilang mga kabahayan and they find comfort being outside the world instead. Nakakaranas ng anxiety, stress at dissociation ang sinumang nahihirapang makisabay sa daloy ng buhay. Pero tandaan, laging may handang makinig sa iyo.
Ayan, kahit nasa kawalan ng sakit sa kaisipan, maraming tao ang makakaranas ng ilan sa mga sintomas na ito, lalo-lalo na sa panahon ng pandemya. Sa lahat ng ito, tinadaos ang buwan ng nutrisyon upang magkaroon ng sapat na kamalayan ang bawat mamamayan ng Pilipinas sa kahalagahan at magandang naidudulot ng wastong nutrisyon. Kaya't ano pa ang iyong iniinda? Halina't makiisa sa aming advokasya at piliin ang daan patungo sa pagkakaroon ng katawang masustansya
Alam
at
mo ba,
malusog.
partner, napaka-importante talaga ng pag-aalaga ng ating katawan at kaisipan sa panahon ng pandemya. Ito ang iilan sa mga helpful tips na makakatulong upang maitaguyod at mapabuti ang ating kalusugan sa kaisipan. Maagang pagtulog, pagkain ng masustansyang mga pagkain, pakikipag-interact sa ibang tao, and syempre keeping the social distance, physical na aktibidades, ehersisyo at stress management.
Ang pag-aalaga sa ating sarili at pagsuporta sa iba ay makapagpapaganda sa atin. Ang kagawaran ng psikolohiya ng Autonomous University ng Yucatan ay nagbabalangkas kung gaano kahalaga ang pag-iisip ng positibo sa panahon ng pandemya ng COVID-19 upang mas mahusay na harapin ng panlipunan na paglayo at paggalang sa iba. Kaya ngayon, malalaman natin ang totoong halaga sa paggunita ng buwan ng nutrisyon, sa kaisipan at sa katawan.
Para naman sa mga oras na ito, ay kinagagalaw kong ipakilala ang ating panauhing pandangal para sa webinar na ito. Siya ay isang registered nurse, National Nursing Licensure Exam Reviewer, graduate of Master of Science in Public Health Nutrition from UP Manila, a DOST scholar for graduate studies, motivational speaker and YouTube lecturer for Everyday Learner PH, co-founder of Above and Beyond Classrooms. She's also the former assistant professor in the University of Perpetual Help Dr. Jose G. Tamayo Medical School, and a campus minister and pastor's wife. Siya ay walang iba kundi si Professor Cherry Ann Durante.
Thank you so much to our MCs for your warm welcome. Maraming salamat.
Ayan, good afternoon po, Professor Cherry Ann.
Good afternoon. Okay, so let's begin our discussion on developing a healthy mind for everyone. Okay, so let me just go to my slide. Yan. Okay, can you please next for this slide? Okay, so hello everyone. So my name is, as your MCs have told you, Professor Cherry Ann Garcia Durante, and I will be talking this afternoon all about developing a healthy mind. Yan. So this is the teen edition for this webinar. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, yan. So this is actually the purpose of this webinar is for us to be able to see kung paano ba natin i-combat yung mga challenges that are being faced by young people, especially yung mga audience natin ngayon, on how to actually develop a healthy mind despite of the stressful environment that we have right now. Okay, so I have a question for you. Can I get to the next slide, please? Have you ever asked yourself, why are some people more vulnerable to stress and depression compared to others? Like, for example, do you know of a person who once confronted by stress talagang alam mo yon, nawiwindang siya, ganyan. O kaya somebody who's more prone to depression, like this sudden mood change or a negative self-image. Do you know of a person like that, or are you a person like that? And probably you've asked yourself, bakit kaya ako ganito? Bakit naman yung kapatid ko, hindi naman siya nadadown or hindi naman siya mukhang stressed? Bakit ako, I'm always feeling stressed or depressed or anxious? Now, if that is a question that you have, then this webinar is for you. Now, if this is something that your siblings have o kaya mga friends mo, ganito sila, yung description sa kanila, they're always stressed, they're always somehow having these negative thoughts about themselves, then this webinar is for them. Now, what you can do is you can listen to this webinar, take down notes or probably share this webinar with your friends. Okay? So let's get started. Now, there are 4 challenges. Okay, next slide, please. To our everyday life. No, for our minds, every day we face these 4 challenges that can lead to what we call as your unhealthy mind. Ayan. So, part of our goal when we talk about nutrition is the holistic approach, which means that we're not just talking about the foods that we're eating or the exercises that we do, but aside from that, it's very important for us to actually consider yung holistic, which includes your minds. Now, even though you are physically fit, it is still possible for you to have problems, physical problems or diseases kasi you're always stressed. O kaya kasi you're always, having these negative thoughts. Now, let's look at the different challenges one faces every day. Okay, let's get to the next slide. The number 1 is distractibility. Now, as young people, I know that you're probably so in tune with your social media accounts. Now, let me ask you a question. How long do you spend, or how many hours do you spend on social media every day? Okay, so what is your number? Do you spend like 4 hours, 5 hours? Do you spend, who among you, do you have like a friend who's 24/7 online, or are you that person? Now, when we talk about distractibility, social media, any forms, internet access, these things can actually get our attention. Now, the moment you wake up, the moment you open your eyes, as you wake up, you already have a lot of things vying for your attention. And one of those things will be your cell phone. So for example, you are subscribed to a channel, or probably, you're following somebody on Instagram or Twitter, and then they have this post, and then your notification sounded. So these are actually distracts you from what you are doing. Now, how do we define distractibility? Distractibility is defined as, next please, a condition of being easily sidetracked from the primary purpose, unable to pay attention or stay on task. Let's say, for example, you're doing something and yet something else distracted you or something else got your attention, then that is considered as distractions. Now, your ability to be distracted is called distractibility. Now, next, please, you can see that distractibility can occur as a response not just from external sources. Let's say, for example, if you are pet lovers here, for example, your dog is, let's say, eating his favorite dog food, okay? And while he was eating, from his peripheral vision, there is a cat, crossing the street. You can see that the distractibility is very, very high, right? So the dog will just, even though that's his favorite dog food, he will just stop eating and, try to chase that cat crossing the street. And that is called external stimuli. However, when we're talking about internal stimuli, it also happens to us, right? For example, have you ever had this we call this in psychology as the Zygarnik effect. Have you ever had this thing that you started which you haven't finished yet? So and yet you have to go to sleep because it's time to sleep, or it's already early in the morning, so you have to sleep, and yet your mind seems to be still focused on the task that you have not yet finished. It's called your Zygarnik effect. So internally, there is this stimulus that distracts you from what you're supposed to be doing, which is sleeping. Have you ever had that experience before? Like, you cannot go to sleep because there are just this so many to-do lists on your mind you haven't done yet. So you just, you want to like finish that or do something about it. I don't know about you, but sometimes I have those things. Like there's this idea that pops into my mind that I have to do. Or for example, like I'm thinking about what webinar would I do next for my channel, which is Everyday Learner. So if haven't subscribed there yet, so you can go and subscribe to Everyday Learner PH. That's my channel where I do webinars and a lot of lectures. Now, for example, I'm thinking what will be my next topic for my webinar? And then I have listed like this some of the things that I would like to talk about, so I jotted it on a notebook, and then I haven't really decided what to do yet. So I need to go to sleep, so I go to my bed and just lie there, and then these thoughts are running through my head, and then out of nowhere I had this idea like, okay, like, why not talk about connections? So how to make connections. Okay, so that is something that popped into my head. So I just have to stand up from the bed and just write it down on my notes. So do you feel that same way? Do you have this distractibility, this internal noise, as we call it, wherein you cannot focus on what you're doing just because there is still internal stimuli? So sometimes that happens, no? Zygarnik effect is that effect which, if you started something and haven't finished it, it bothers you. Okay, so that is in psychology. Now, when we talk about distractibility, there is this study that was done, and I want you to like look at this the questions that they posted for their participants. Okay, for the next slide. So the first question that they ask, okay, so the first question they ask is, what are you doing right now? So that was the first question that they asked the participants. Okay, so I think we're having some difficulties. Okay, so the first question that they ask is, what are you doing right now? So let me ask you that right now. What are you doing right now? So if your answer is, I'm watching this webinar, the next question will be, are you fully focused on what you are doing? That's the next question. So, are you fully focused on this webinar, or are you doing something else? Can we see that? Can we have that? So, let me see. So, I think you have that. You have comments, right? So, how many of you are doing, or let's say watching this webinar or listening to this webinar for that matter, and at the same time doing something else? Okay, so who among you are like that, still doing something else while watching this webinar? Okay, the third question is, okay, are you happy, okay, with what you're doing? So that's the third question. Are you happy with what you're doing? So if you're doing something right now, like watching this webinar, and you're fully focused, like you tell me, this is just what I'm doing, ma'am. So that is 100% focused. Then are you happy with what you're doing? So you gauge that for percentage. According to the study, most people who are fully focused on what they're doing at the present are actually more happy than those who are not focused with what they're doing. Let's say, for example, many teenagers now, not just teenagers, many people nowadays, they love to do many things all at the same time. Let's say, for example, I'm not sure if you do this. Like, for example, you're doing or you're watching a webinar, and at the same time probably you're doing or playing some mobile games, I don't know, and at the same time your television is on, It's like you have three screens before you, you're not happy with just one screen. You have three screens, like your phone, your laptop, and then your television right before you. And that talks about distractibility. So you get distracted from what you're doing, let's say what you're playing, and you get distracted from my voice as you listen or look at this webinar, and then you get distracted by what is shown on your Netflix screen or your television screen. So this is what we call as distractibility. And according to the research, that the more you're distracted, the less happy you become. So that is interesting. Thinking about distractions, or rather being distracted all the time. That's the reason why if you look at the different diseases, different diseases that we have right now, especially in psychology, you will see a very high increase in the number of patients with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. So we are not just experiencing a financial deficit, we are also experiencing an attention deficit, because we cannot, because of so many distractions, people's minds are everywhere nowadays. That's why it's very difficult to get other people's attention. So that's the number one, distractibility. Now let's go to the second point, or second challenge that we face every day. It's our mind that faces it. The second is loneliness. Especially in this pandemic time, we experience social isolation because it is necessary to protect ourselves against the virus. However, loneliness is called your perceived social isolation. Now, I want to know how lonely you are right now. So, we will be taking a test. So, if you're here with us on this webinar, please get out a piece of paper, or you can use your phones for that matter, and we will take a test. Okay? So, if you have a notepad there or an Excel where you can add some stuff. Okay, so this is 1 to 10. Now, here is your legend. So, next, please. So, you have there, okay, next. How lonely are you? So you will score yourself 1 if your answer is never, 2 if your answer is rarely, 3 if your answer is sometimes, and 4 if your answer is always. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, let's go to the first question that we have. Okay, how often do you feel unhappy when you do things alone? So, gaano kadalas kang nalulungkot kapag mag-isa kang gumagawa ng mga bagay-bagay? 1 means never, 2 means rarely, 3 sometimes, 4 pag always. Okay, so let me just score myself. There you go. Okay, second question. How often do you feel you don't have anyone to talk to? Gaano kadalas mong na-feel na wala ka nang makausap? Ayan. So, score yourself 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 3. How often do you feel you cannot tolerate being alone? Gaano kadalas mong nararanasan na ayoko na mag-isa? Wow, wait lang. Parang ano yan hugot ba to? Okay. So how often do you feel you cannot tolerate being alone? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, next, number 4. How often do you feel as if no one understands you? Wala namang nakakaintindi sa akin. Gaano kadalas mo itong nararamdaman? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Okay, next, number 5. How often do you find yourself waiting for people to call or write, or even reply to your messages? Gaano kadalas mo nararanasan na naghihintay ka para mag-respond mga tao sa'yo? Like in call, in writing, or sa mga chat mo? Yan, gaano kadalas? Okay. Next set. Number 6. How often do you feel completely alone? As in, totally isolated, completely alone. How often do you feel that way? Next, number 7. How often do you feel unable to reach out and communicate with those around you? Do you feel this inability to reach out to other people? Okay, despite the fact that they're there, no? So, what will be your score? Number 8. How often do you feel alone in a crowd? How often do you feel alone in a crowd? So people are there. For example, you went to you cannot go to SM if you're, if you're below 20, I think. So please don't do that. But if you are, above 20 and you're allowed, you went to a place where there are so many people and yet you still feel alone. Do you feel that way? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next, please, number 9. How often do you feel it is difficult for you to make friends? Hmm. And lastly, number 10, how often do you feel shut out and excluded by others? This feeling of OP. I don't know if still use that in your vernacular, but for us in my generation, that is that feeling, especially in high school where like everyone has a clique and it seems like you don't. So that's, feeling shut out by other people. Di ka kasama sa GC. Alam mo yan? Kasi ikaw yung pinag-uusapan. I'm just kidding. So, how often do you feel this way? So, I want you now to compute that and to add it all up. So, okay. So, after adding that, this is the legend for which you will base if you're actually lonely. Okay? If you're less than 15, there is no loneliness. Oh, so you feel, like there's no loneliness in your mind. Now, 15 to 20, mild loneliness. Okay, that's, probably due to the situation that we have now. Moderate loneliness. Okay, that is a cause for, but maybe you need to talk to someone like a friend about what you're feeling. Now for 25 to 29, that's severe loneliness, and for 30 and above, that's highly severe loneliness. And according to research, these two levels, severe loneliness and highly severe loneliness, can lead to physical manifestation, and in psychology we call that as conversion. It's the body's defense mechanism. When a psychological baggage is just too big for your mind, it translates into a physical symptom. Let's say, for example, you are due for, let's say, thesis defense tomorrow, and you develop diarrhea tonight. Or, I don't know, an upset stomach, like butterflies in your stomach. These are called conversion because the psychological stress is too much. It was converted into a physical symptom. Now, why is it important for us to know if we are lonely? According to research, next slide, please, loneliness is a higher predictor of early mortality than obesity. We know for a fact that obesity has been a risk factor for many diseases. I can name a few. You have your stroke, cardiovascular disorders, cerebrovascular disorders or accidents. You have your diabetes, and these are a predictor of this is obesity. However, according to research, loneliness is higher predictor of early death. Okay? And I think that's a cause for concern. Furthermore, other studies have shown, next please, that loneliness, or its medical term, perceived social isolation, causes increased risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiomegaly, specifically left ventricular hypertrophy. This is a condition wherein your left ventricle, the largest chamber of the heart, enlarges, causing the heart to actually enlarge. Hypertension, abnormal inflammatory response, and it even can lead to your autoimmune disease, wherein your body destroys your immune system destroys your own cells. Okay, so that is what loneliness does. And if you think about it, really, is this that big a deal? Yes, it is. And this has been proven through research of animals, cage animals. So what they did was they isolated the animal from others of its species, and they found out that the risk is much more greater with this isolated animal compared to others who have, the other, or who are in the community. Okay, so that is loneliness. Next, please. The third challenge that we are facing right now is called as your negative self talk. Now, your words matter, right? Not just the words that you say to the people around you. Of course they do matter, because people are listening, and if they if they hear you say negative things about other people, and you tell them, that you are that brand, you are that kind of person. But aside from that, words matter. The most important words that matter are those words that you tell yourself. So what are the words that you tell yourself? Next slide, please. Okay, next, please. Negative self-talk leads to depression. Many people have experienced this before, that the more you over analyze or over criticize yourself, because most people who are critical about others are more critical about themselves. I'm not sure if your personality is that, if you have high standards for other people, the tendency is you have higher standards for yourself. And when you are not able to reach those standards that you have for yourself, you berate yourself. You do negative self talk. You attack yourself in your mind. And that is what leads to depression. According to recent statistics, next slide, please. In 2016, there were 2,413 suicide cases. And among this, more than 2,000 are males. Well, if you think about it, like, in our culture, women talk more than men, right? In our culture, in our essence, like, men are somehow, if you're a man and you're chatty, you're talkative, people will brand you or label you as, no, you're not a real man, because men keep everything to themselves. And according to this study, more than 2,000 of this are men. 6 people commit suicide every day. Now, if you look at the statistics, we are 108 million people. And if you think about 6 people, that's not that bad. But that is really a huge number. 6 people who decides every day that their lives are not worth continuing. In 2012 to 2016, this is so heartbreaking. When I saw this, I cried. 237 suicide were noted among children between 10 to 14 years old. Can you imagine? 237 children, 10 to 14 years of age, have decided that there's nothing left for them and that they have to end their lives. And if you think about it, this is all about what we say to ourselves, because our words have some form of power. Of course, suicide is affected by circumstances. But the question still remains, there are many people who are suffering. There are many people in poverty, below poverty line nowadays. And yet, why don't they kill themselves? Because they have somehow a positive influence, a positive regard of themselves, that something good is still up ahead. But if you lose that, then this will lead to suicide. Let me show you an example of how negative self talk can be changed, or how we can look at words we say ourselves and look at things differently. So, this is an example. Let's say, for example, there is a change, like now, right now. we experience a change in our, that's why we call it a new normal, right? So there is a new normal, and you have to adapt, right? Because there is this online learning now. So there is this webinars now. So before, we do seminars, right? But now this is a new form, and the new normal will be you are now going to study using the internet. So if you're a negative person, you can view change this way. Okay, next. You can view change this way. Can't handle another negative gut-wrenching experience. May pagbabago. So, hindi ko na to kaya. Iba na naman. Naiinis ako. So, this can be your view. And this can be your self-talk when there is something new in your environment. However, if you switch that up, if you change your meaning of change into, next, circumstances have altered, new can be good experience. Many parents called me because I did this webinar on practical guides to distance education. Parents have asked me, should I enroll my student or my child in online learning? And well, for me, my answer is definitely, for the reason that if I was the child, I would want to experience this because something new can be good. And that's how I look at change. Let's say, for example, at first, probably this is like something negative. I hate this. I cannot go to the mall. I cannot see my friends. I cannot, go to parties. So at first, you will be sad, right? However, if you look at it, it's possible that this will happen only during your lifetime. It will not happen in the lifetime of your, let's say, children or your grandchildren. And you will tell them, do you know, when I was like a teenager, we experienced there was a pandemic, and like no one is allowed out. Can you see that? There is a change in perspective because this is a new experience, and what is something good about this experience? And I want to know that good thing from this experience, and I want to get that good thing. However, if we don't experience that, or if we look at it as something negative, gut wrenching, then we will face the new normal with qualms, with I don't know, with murmuring, I don't know. Puro reklamo ang maiisip mo, right? So you just complain and complain, grumble and grumble. And yet if you look at this, what new thing can I experience with this change? Then probably there is a change in your perspective from the negative to the positive. Let's have another. Well, let's talk about fear. Fear. Obviously, there's a pandemic, and any one of you, your relatives, or your family can get the disease, right? Because this, the virus doesn't choose socioeconomic status. It doesn't choose who's popular, who's not. It doesn't discriminate, which means that you can have the disease. So there is this fear. And when you have fear, usually you encounter fear this way. What does fear stand for? Next, please. Fail every attempt regardless. So sometimes we're so afraid to take a chance. Why? Because we will fail. That's in our mind. No, I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fail. Even if I try to, let's say, get some high honors, in school, for example, I will fail. I will fail. So I'm afraid I will no longer take that chance. But the reality is we miss 100% of the opportunities we do not take, right? So if you do not try, then you already lost. However, how can we view fear in a positive way? Next, please. Fear fuels energy and resilience. Now, I'm afraid, but, I'm going to try. So it fuels your energy, and I'm going to try and not just survive, but thrive. Resilience fuels energy and resilience. Are you that kind of personality? When you're afraid, instead of backing out, you push forward a little bit, one step at a time until you're over that fear. And that is a change in perspective when we look at fear. Let's see another word. Next, please. Can I? This is just a change in position, right? Can I is somehow doubtful. So change that question into a declaration. I can. Can I? I can. So what can I stands for? Can I? Let's see. Next, please. Can stand for cautious, anxious, nervous, insecure. Kaya ko ba to? So you're like, you're not taking that much of a risk. Anxious, parang di ko to kaya. Nervous, even in your presentations, insecure, you tend to compare. Nako, I cannot do it kasi mas magaling siya sa akin. Can I? Now you start to doubt yourself. However, what about I can? What is this mindset? I can stands for inspired, confident, affirmed, no doubt. Kaya ko yan. When you look at yourself, I know most of us, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we do not, there are moments we do not like what we see, right? We look at ourselves and we see the flaws. However, sometimes it helps to have a friend or a family member look at you differently. The look that or something that you yourself cannot see, but they can see in you, and they verbalize that to you, then that's affirmation. And for example, nobody affirmed you before, then I guess it's about time that you'd be the one affirming others first. So, for example, you know of a person and or somebody who has a negative self-image right now. You have a friend on your message list, somebody who is, someone who is having self-doubts, and yet you see the good in them. Why not PM them, chat them, and tell them, you know what? Friend, I see your potential. Maybe you don't see it, but I see that you will be a great leader someday. And I can see you taking office, or I can see you, you know, you don't deserve to be hurt. You deserve to be loved. So, is there somebody in your message list or in your friend list that needs this affirmation? Maybe you can be the one who can affirm them. And if you're the one who needs that affirmation, maybe you can ask somebody you love to look at you and ask them, what do you see in me? And you will hear these words of affirmation from them, and you will gain your confidence. So from can I to I can. Okay? So let's continue on the next slide. Now, let me tell you about a story. So before I continue with the fourth challenge that we face every day, let me dig deeper into this negative self-talk and tell you a story about the Wemix. If you have read this before, then that's good. It is adopted from the book of Max Lucado entitled You Are Special. And it's supposed to be a children's book. But when I read it, it's like, ah, it's so good. And it appeals to me, and it appeals to what we are doing right now and what is happening with us when we relate to other people. Okay, so let me tell you this story. So this story is about the Wemix. Next, please. The Wemix are wooden people. Okay, so they're carved people. So ito yung mga Wemix. So they live in a village, and they are all carved by a wood carver named Eli. Now, si Eli, he lives, yung workshop niya is nandun sa top of the hill wherein makikita nyo dyan, no? Doon siya nakatira and overlooking the village. Kung saan nabubuhay yung mga Wemix who are wooden people. Now, as you can see, because they're wooden carved people, they look differently. Okay? Iba-iba ang kanilang itsura. So, some have big noses, some are fat, some are thin, some wear coats, so you can see them. And isa pang observation na mapapansin nyo sa kanila is that they have some stickers. Next slide, please. All day, every day, bawat Wemik, meron silang dala-dala na box na merong stickers. Isang set ng gold stickers, gold star stickers, at isang set ng gray stickers. Okay, so yun yung nila. Now, the gold stickers are placed on people who are achieving. So let's say, for example, your next slide, please. Let's say, for example, you are good in talking or singing or acrobat or reading. Ayan. So, pag magaling ka, people will place gold star stickers sa'yo. And then of course, syempre, napansin nila na the more gold stickers that are placed sa'yo, mas gusto mo pa na gumawa pa ng mga kakaibang bagay, yung mga, alam mo yun, mga pakita mo pa yung talent mo para more gold stickers pa ang mailagay sa'yo. And then, okay, next slide, meron ding gray stickers. Yung gray dot stickers, nilalagay naman sila sa mga tao na parang nakakahiya, alam mo yun, or pangit yung paint. And isa na nga dun sa mga taong yon ay si Punchinello. Or yung isa sa mga wooden things na yon, si Punchinello. Si Punchinello is the name of our protagonist of the story. Now, si Punchinello, tinry niya kasi nakita niya yung mga nagtatumbling na magaling, nakakuha ng gold sticker. So, tinry niya mag-tumbling. Kaso, hindi niya nagawa. So, nadapa siya. So, yung mga tao, nung nakitang nadapa siya, tumawa sila, tapos dinikitan siya ng gray sticker. Tapos, nung tinry niyang i-explain kung bakit siya nadapa, nautal siya kasi hindi siya magaling magsalita. So, kasi so, nung nautal siya, nagtawanan sila, dinikitan ulit siya ng gray sticker. Tapos dahil nga nadapa siya, nasira yung paint niya, nagkagasgas. So, minsan naglalakad siya, dinidikitan siya ng ng gray sticker just because may sira yung kanyang paint. And then, next slide please. Dumating yung time na sobrang dami ng gray dot sticker ni Punchinello. So, one time naglalakad siya, nakita niya yung isang nanay na Wemik na napansin siya na may anak, sabi niya doon sabi nung nanay sa anak niya na, uy, wag kang maglapit dyan kay Punchinello at tingnan mo, puro puro gray dot yan, mahahawa ka dyan. So, masamang Wemik yan. So, si Punchinello, napaisip siya, masamang Wemik ako. Oo nga, baka totoo nga yun na masamang Wemik ako kasi ang dami-dami ko ng gray dots. So, nag-decide siya na magstay na lang sa loob ng bahay at hindi siya umalis doon. Next slide, please. Hanggang sa isang araw, merong napadaan sa bahay niya at napasilip siya. Itong babaeng to ay kakaiba kasi ang pangalan niya is si Lucia. Si Lucia, there's something wrong with Lucia. Why? Because Lucia has no stickers. Pagkakita pa lang ni Punchinello kay Lucia na wala siyang stickers, naintriga agad si Punchinello. Bakit kaya wala siyang stickers? So, ang ginawa niya, sumilip siya dun sa bintana. Ngayon, nakita niya si Lucia na may mga grupo ng mga bata na nakatingin kay Lucia at nung nakita si Lucia at nakita wala siyang gold stickers, kinuha nila yung kanilang gray dot stickers at dinikitan nila si Lucia. Pero, pagdikit nila ng stickers, nalaglag yung stickers. Hindi yun dumikit kay Lucia. So, si Punchinello, bakit hindi dumikit? Tapos, may isang grupo naman ng mga bata na dumaan, nakita si Lucia na hindi dumikit sa kanya yung gray stickers at namangha sila kasi parang ability yon. So, kinuha nila yung gold stickers, dinikitan nila si Lucia. Pero hindi rin dumikit yung gold stickers kay Lucia. So, pag alis ng mga bata, lumabas si Punchinello sa bahay at lumapit siya kay Lucia at tinanong niya, Lucia, bakit hindi dumidikit sa'yo yung stickers? And Lucia said, the stickers only stick when you believe them. So sabi niya, ha? Anong ibig mong sabihin? Next slide, please. Ganto kasi yun, Punchinello, sabi ni Lucia. Everyday, pumupunta ako dun kay Eli, dun sa wood carver, yung gumawa sa atin. Everyday, pumupunta ako dun. Tapos, nagsistay ako dun. Tapos, kinakausap ko siya, ganun. Yun. Tapos sabi ni Punchinello, paano hindi dumidikit sa'yo yung stickers? Basta pumunta ka na lang doon. Pumunta ka doon sa workshop ni Eli. Malalaman mo yung sekreto. So, napaisip ngayon si Punchinello. Next, please. Habang siya ay, patulog na siya, sabi niya, pupunta kaya ako doon kay Eli? Kaya lang, pag pumunta ako doon, baka busy yun. Baka hindi ako pansinin nun. Siguro hindi na lang ako pupunta. Pero kasi gusto ko nang malaman kung paano matatanggal 'tong mga dot na 'to sa akin, eh. Kaya lang, sige na nga, pupunta na ako. And then he decided to come. So the next day, maaga-maaga pa lang, siya ay umakyat doon sa hill, papunta sa bahay, sa workshop ni Eli. At pagdating doon, lahat ng mga bagay ay malalaki. Ang laki ng workshop table, ang laki ni Eli, at sabi ni Punchinello, nako, hindi ako para dito, nakakatakot talaga. So, uwi na lang ako. Nung siya'y pauwi na, palabas na, biglang may narinig siyang tinig. At ito ay tinig ni Eli. Punchinello. Yes, sir. Punchinello, where are you going? So, sabi ni Punchinello, Sir, kilala niyo po ako? Oo naman, Punchinello, kilala kita. At binuhat siya ni Eli at iniupo siya doon sa kanyang wood carving station. At sabi ni Eli, paano hindi kita makikilala? Ako ang gumawa sa'yo, kaya kilalang kilala kita. Oh, mukhang marami silang nilagay na dots sa'yo. And sabi ni Punchinello, nag-explain siya agad, Eli, kasi wala naman po akong ginawa pero... Oh, sabi ni Eli, you don't have to explain, Punchinello. Alam ko naman na wala kang ginawa dun sa mga taong yon at para sa akin, they don't have the right para lagyan ka ng mga dots, ng mga stickers. Kasi ako ang gumawa sa'yo. At para sa akin, you are perfect. At napatawa si Punchinello, sabi niya, Ako? Perfect? Joke yun. But si Eli, he was so serious. Sabi niya, you are beautiful and I made you as my masterpiece. At para sa akin, you are so special. Parang kinikiliti yung tiyan ni Punchinello nung sinasabi yun sa kanya ni Eli. Pero somehow, dahil sa pagiging serious ni Eli, somehow parang naniniwala na siya. Kaya sabi niya, siguro nga, tama yung sinabi ni Eli. Tama na masterpiece niya ako. Sige, bukas pupunta ulit ako dito. Next slide, please. At habang gumagawa si Eli nung iba pang workshop, nung iba pang wood carvings sa kanyang workshop, na pinapakinggan lang siya ni Punchinello. And based sa mga words ni Eli, parang naniniwala na siya na siya ay worthy, na siya ay wood carving na talagang ginawa for a specific purpose. At pagbabasa kanya ni Eli, next slide please, nag-decide siya na papaniwalaan niya ang sinasabi ni Eli. Sabi ni Eli, you are beautiful and you are mine. Sabi niya, sa iyo ako? Yes, you are mine. At Pagbabasa kanya ni Eli from the workshop, aalis na po si Punchinello. Next, please. May isa sa mga sticker dots na nilagay sa kanya ang nalaglag sa floor. And that is the end of the story. Now, this story is obviously an analogy. I want you to think of the negative things, hurtful things that other people have labeled you with. And this is signified by the dark stickers, the gray dot stickers. And it only sticks if we believe them. And the sad thing about these labels is that sometimes when people label you negatively, sometimes you live up to their expectations, right? Pag sinabi sa'yo na, wala ka naman pupuntahan eh. Minsan naisip mo, "Oo nga, wala akong papatunguhan, wala akong pupuntahan." And you believe them. And when that happens, your life will be filled with this gray dots. However, if you only believe the right voices, the voice of your maker, the voice of your family who loves you, the voice of your friends who support you, then it will be totally different. Let me read to you a verse. Next slide, please. Another slide. Isaiah 43, verse 1, it says, "The Lord who created you says, do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." Hindi ko alam kung saan kayo right now, mga kabataan. Where you are right now, I don't know what hurtful words you've heard recently or time and time again. And I cry for you. My heart breaks because I know the most hurtful words usually comes from those we love. Being compared, um, being said negative things that we will not amount to anything. These hurtful words, these brands like maarte, you'll be get pregnant early. What are the words that were said to you? What were the negative words? And sometimes they stick, right? They stick to you. And sometimes you just don't know how to brush them off. You don't know how to remove them. And maybe what you need is a reminder, a daily reminder that you are beautiful. If people told you differently, that you're ugly, that nobody will love you, that is not true. That is not true. Because you're beautiful, you are worthy to be loved. When I was growing up, I was bullied by my high school classmates, and they branded me this word, ganda. But ganda in Tagalog means beautiful, right? But to them, it has a different meaning. They use it as a brand to say that I'm ugly. I'm sorry. I've forgiven them before, but every time it goes back to my memory because there were those times when I don't want to come to class anymore because they will brand me um like like nobody will love me, like uh if they will like choose one of the boys in our class and then say, "Oh, kayo na ni ganda," ganyan. And then they will like vomit, and I will think, what have I done to deserve that? And there were those moments when I was growing up, I was really looking at myself, and I thought that I will not find anyone to love me for who I am. But but it totally changed when I met my husband. When I met him, I was fat. I was I was 28 years old, no longer in my prime. But when he found me, he told me that I am the most beautiful person for him, inside and out. And that is just what I needed, to have all those dots removed. I'm sorry if I'm getting emotional. I know this is not that recollection webinar, but it it helps our minds to become healthy when we deal with these hurts. And when once you do deal with this hurt, you will have a right perspective of who you are, that you are an amazing person, that there is something good out there for you. And maybe now you cannot see that. But let me remind you that ending your life is not the solution, because there is a hope for you. And I'm so excited of what God can do in your life to change that for the better. Next slide, please. Now, the fourth reason why people, or what these are the challenges that we're facing now, is the loss of meaning in life. Like, it's so sad that people nowadays do not have dreams. So next, please, let me ask you a question. Do you know your purpose in life? Like, do you like have a clear picture, like, for me, I will be this is my purpose? Next slide. What is your dream? Do you still have a dream? A recent study has shown, next slide please, that 7 out of 10 Filipino teens do not have a dream. Tinanong sila, anong pangarap mo? Wala po. That is so shocking. Kasi naalala ko nung mga bata kami, automatic yan, no? Parang tatlo lang ang trabaho before eh. Anong gusto mo maging paglaki mo? Doktor, teacher, sundalo. Ewan ko, bakit tatlo lang yun. Laging ganun usually ang sagot ng mga bata. Doktor, teacher, sundalo, or police. So, but now, if you ask like teenagers, it's like they're disillusioned, no? So, parang nakita nila yung realidad. So, pag tinanong mo, anong pangarap mo? Wala. So, wala silang pangarap. And this is so sad for me. So my question is, what is your dream? Do you still have a dream? Next slide, please. A dream, this is defined by John Maxwell, is an inspiring picture of the future that energizes your mind, will, and emotions, empowering you to do everything you can to achieve it. Now, that is how John Maxwell, and that is how I define what a dream is. Alam mo yung tanong ng Nescafe na, para kanino ka bumabangon sa umaga? Parang gano'n, you know? So, the dream is what fuels you, you know? It energizes you. It keeps you awake at night. It keeps you restless. You just, want to do this day to move you a step closer to that dream. And once you have that dream, it gives you a purpose in life. Next, please. Now, there are 5 common reasons why people no longer dream. Okay? 5 reasons why people no longer dream. Okay. Number 1 is that you were discouraged by someone. Sorry for that. You were discouraged by someone. Now, for example, if you had like this dream and you told it to someone, and then that person will say like, ano ka ba naman? Ano ba yung pangarap na yan? Di yan matutupad. Yung ganon. If you're discouraged by someone, then that's the reason why, sige, ayoko na nga mangarap. I don't want a dream anymore. Actually, they had made this experiment with monkeys. Next slide, please. So, meron silang experiment with monkeys wherein parang they placed 4 monkeys on a cage, and they have this pole, a tall pole, in the middle of the cage, and dun sa taas ng pole are bananas. Okay. So, what they do is, so syempre nakalagay na yung monkeys dun. Once a monkey, so si monkey 1, umakyat si monkey 1 dun sa pole, ang gagawin ng mga researcher, sorry, Ay, sorry, excuse me. So, ang gagawin ng mga researcher, bubuhusan siya ng malamig na tubig. Iced water. Ayan, isa nga ice water. So, syempre, malalaglag siya dun sa pole, tapos giginawin siya. So halimbawa si Monkey 1, nag-try siya, tapos nung binuhusan siya, gininaw siya, nandun na siya sa side. Tapos, edi syempre, gutom nga sila, so nag-try naman si Monkey 2. Pag-akit ni Monkey 2, binuhusan na naman siya ng researchers ng kumukula, sorry, not kumukula, malamig na tubig. So, gininaw siya, nalaglag siya sa pole, tapos bumalik siya sa kanyang pwesto. So, si Monkey 1, kahit nangyari na sa kanya yun minsan, tinry niya na naman ulit, a second time. Binuhusan na naman siya. Same thing with Monkey 3 and same thing with Monkey 4. So, every time they will climb the pole, the researchers will pour cold water sa kanila. This is a way for them to encourage the monkey, to discourage the monkeys from climbing the pole. Now, so you have monkey 1, 2, 3, 4, remember? Now, ang ginawa ng mga researcher, tinanggal nila si monkey 1. Okay, tinanggal nila si monkey 1, nilagay nila si monkey 5, a brand new monkey. Okay? A brand new monkey was placed on the cage. And si monkey 5, syempre, hindi niya pa alam na, di ba, na mabubuhusan. So, nung nakita niya yung saging sa taas ng pole, umakyat siya. Papaakyat pa lang siya yung tatlong monkeys. Remember, monkey 2, 3, and 4, yung kasama ni monkey 1, hinigit na agad pababa si monkey 5. Tataka si Monkey 5, ba't niyo ako hinihigit? Kasi alam nila na mabubuhusan siya ng cold water. So, hindi pa siya nakakaakyat, hinihigit na agad siya. Now, what does this experiment tell them about the monkeys, about discouragement? Sometimes people who discourage us to pursue our dream are because they are the ones who failed to achieve theirs. Hindi nila na-achieve yung dream nila nung sila yung nag-try. So, nung ikaw na yung nag-try, piniprevent ka nila from achieving that. That's why you get discouraged. However, what if wala nang bubuhos sa'yo na water, right? So, you will be able to achieve that dream. Pero, yun nga, may mga tao na nagdi-discourage sa'yo kasi nag-fail sila in the past. Okay, next po. Next reason why people do not dream anymore is you were disappointed in the past. As we've said, no, yun din yung pag na-disappoint ka in the past, parang ayaw mo na ngayon mangarap. Third, next po. Another reason, so this is a quote from Margaret Thatcher. She said, you may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. And that is true, right? Sometimes it takes a couple of successes before our dream materializes. So one failure in one task will not equate to failure in the whole dream. So you have to, fight more. So wag yung isang disappointment lang, ayaw na agad. Sometimes people, especially now yung mga owners ng company, sabi nila they don't want to hire millennials and Gen Zers, your generation Z, or even Generation Alpha, kasi daw madali daw tayo mag-quit. Like, for example, nasigawan ka ng boss, ayaw mo na agad, resign. Ganon. So, sometimes you have to fight a battle more than once for you to actually win it. So, kailangan ng mas matinding resilience. Huwag agad mag-resign. Okay? Next, please. The third reason why we don't dream anymore is because you settled for average. It's really sad, right? If you settled for average, you will find out that you actually settled for less. Look at the next slide. According to Maureen Dowd, the minute you settled for less than you deserve, you get even less than what you settled for. Now, this is one of the things that I do when I do pre-marriage counseling for those who are, thinking to get married, for couples who are thinking to get married. Or for those young ladies who are still waiting to get married or thinking, is this the right man? Now, I ask them, is this what you deserve? Is he who you deserve? Because if you will just settle, like, pwede na yan, ang tendency mo, once you're in the marriage already, you will see na yung pwede na yan is even less than that. It's not, hindi siya pwede. Because you will see what is behind the curtain. Now, I always say do not trade what you want most for what you want now. Huwag ka magmadali. Do not settle for less than you deserve. And this is, I think, one of the things that I learned the hard way, because there are times that I go to a job and they offer me less than I deserve, for example. And if that's the case, then because I'm the eldest, so I have to have a job. So sometimes I get to like say yes to the job even though I know that I deserve more than that. So there's a tendency, if you do not value yourself highly, people around you will not value yourself as well, or will not value you as well. So you have to make sure that you don't settle for average and you expect high things, like great things for yourself and for your future. Okay, next slide, please. The fourth reason why we don't dream is we lack the confidence to dream. You're like saying, "No, I will not dream anymore because like I get disappointed na naman. So pwede na to, walang dream." Pag wala kang dream, ang tendency mo wala kang purpose. Because you're not, trying to achieve anything. But if there is like this dream, even though it's just a simple dream, then at least you can evaluate your steps. Ako ba ay one step closer to achieving that dream, or one step parang further away? So every time you make a decision, like there's a fork in the road and you have to decide, eto ba o eto? Lagi mo tatanungin, is this one closer to my dream or farther from it? So meron ka nga yung purpose, meron kang dinedireksyon. Pero pag wala, because you lack the confidence, then the tendency is you will not have a meaning or a purpose in life. Next, please. Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears. Remember earlier on, you have to change your perspective that, failing every attempt regardless. So, that should not be your idea of things like I will fail naman eh kaya I'm not gonna dream anymore. You don't have to leave your fears. So you have to have a dream. Okay? So I hope that right now you're thinking, ano kaya ang dream ko? Wala akong dream ah. So makapag-isip ka ng dream. So take your time, have a dream. You lack the imagination to dream. Some people, they have a dream, but sometimes the dream is too small for you. When you dream, dream big. Libre na nga, di ba? Sabi na, libre ang mangarap. So, you can dream like big. When I was, starting up, I was really looking forward to an increased influence. I want to be first I want to study at a good school, and then after that I want to, let's say, have an impact, an influence sa mundo, ganon, or not even the world, even in my circle, like nurses, or in my community of students. That was my dream. And yet sabi ko sa sarili ko, like, I have to expand this dream. I have to have an impact, not just on the nursing field, but even outside my field. So, what is your dream? Let me give you this quote. Next, please. Max Lucado said, "You are not an accident. You were not mass produced. You are not an assembly line product. You were deliberately planned, specifically gifted, and lovingly positioned on the earth by the master craftsman." What are we saying here? It's not an accident that you're a jolly person, like you're a people person. Use that to achieve your dream. And your dream should be aligned to that. It's not an accident that you're good in speaking. When I was young, I was very talkative, as you could have imagined. I was this Bibo kid, like entertaining guests and all. So my mom is so different from me. She's soft-spoken. She's very mahinhin. Alam mo yon. Kaya sabi niya, ba't kaya ako nagkaroon ng anak na gano'n? Na sobrang high energy. Like, bordering on ADHD. And yet, when I was growing up, I was able to use this ability to speak to be part of the dream, to influence people through speaking. And ibig sabihin lang doon, it's not an accident that I have this gift of gab. Like, it was placed on me, the ability to speak, to teach, the passion, and that's why I love it. And because that's my, that's my goal, that's my dream, I'm able to achieve that dream just because that I was specifically gifted. So, what about you? Have you taken time to look at yourself and check, ano ba mga ano dito? Ano ba mga kalakip na gifts ko? Ano ba mga talents ko? And that is not an accident. So, meaning your dream should be in line with whatever giftings that you have. Okay? So, next, please. The question is, what is your dream? Now, when you have a dream, you have to make sure that it follows the following principles so that you can have your purpose in life. And that purpose is your own. Next slide, please. The first dreaming principle is ownership principle. Is your dream really your dream? Not your parents' dreams, but your dream. Sometimes our parents, of course, they want the best for us. But sometimes what they do is they pass their dreams to us to the point that some insist their dreams on us. If that's the case, then you will not feel that it's yours. And if it's not yours, you will not embrace it as parang course, right? Sa college. Pag hindi ikaw ang namili ng course mo, hindi mo yun yayakapin katulad ng pagyakap mo kung ikaw talaga namili nun. Kasi pag halimbawa pinili yun ng iba, bawa, ayaw mo ng math. Sabi ng tatay mo, mag-engineer ka. So parang, ayaw ko nga ng math eh. Puro math yan. But that's their dream. So tendency, hindi mo siya yayakapin katulad ng pagyakap mo sa gusto mo talaga. For example, gusto mo talaga ng English. Okay? Or ano pa bang gusto mo? Gusto mo talaga, let's say, science. Okay? So kung gusto mo talaga yan, kahit sa iba, ang hirap-hirap naman yan. Ba't ka nagsa-science? Wala namang science sa pamilya natin. Ano, magsa-scientist ka ba? Yung mga gano'n, no? So, still, because you love that, and that's your dream, then you have a different approach to it. You have a different energy for it. Let's look at this. Next slide, please. This is a table that shows if it's your dream or somebody else's. Okay, so tingnan mo yung dream mo ngayon, kung sa'yo ba yan o sa iba. Pag sa iba yan, it will not have the right fit. It doesn't fit your personality. It doesn't fit the things that you can do. But if it's your dream, it will feel right on you. Like, alam niyo yun, just like this webinar, for me, when I do webinars or when I teach my students, I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like, because it's a passion of mine, because it's fit for me, it doesn't feel like work. It feels so light. It feels like, it's natural. Next, it will be a weight on your shoulder if it's somebody else's. It will drain your energy. Pagod ka, promise. If you're doing a job that it's not fit for you, nakakapagod. Alam mo yon? For example, isipin mo, ikaw, napaka-lively mo. Like Kian. So, I know Kian. So, probably you know Kian. Kian is a very people person, lively person, on-the-go person, and has a leadership ability. Paano kaya kung gawin ko siya, okay, sige, secretary ka ng ating, let's say, presidente. So, bawal ka magsalita. Secretary ka, taga-type ka dyan. Can you imagine Kian doing that? So, for example, gano'n, no? Hindi fit sa'yo eh. So, kahit pa ang taas ng sweldo mo dyan, hindi ka masaya dyan. Because hindi yan fit sa'yo. It drains your energy. It puts you to sleep. It takes out your strength. It's fulfilling for others, but not for you. Maybe your parents are happy because you made their dreams come true, but it doesn't feel right for you. Kaya nga magtataka ka, family of doctors, biglang may isa, gusto niya maging bartender. Alam mo yun, parang, ba't bartender? Yun sa kanya, yun yung, yun yung fit para sa kanya, dun siya nag-enjoy. So, technically, that's his own dream. Okay? So, next, please. The second principle when you dream is the pathway principle. Do you have a strategy to to reach your dream. So, pwede ka naman may pangarap, pero wala ka namang strategy. Paano natin maaabot yan? So, ang pangarap na walang strategiya, illusion lang yan, okay? O kaya hallucination, okay? So, if you want the dream to become reality, you have to have a clear path. Paano ko to magagawa? For example, ang pangarap mo maging piloto, pero wala ka namang background on aviation, tas wala kang possibility na pang-enroll for aviation kasi mahal. So, paano? Ano yung pathway mo to that? So, you have to make sure that your dream is reachable because of a strategy. Next, please. Dreams don't work unless you do. So, yung pangarap mo, pangarap lang yan. You have to put your, your effort, yung, sabi nga nila, di ba, dugo at pawis para maabot mo yung pangarap mo. Next, please. Dream big, start small, act now. Now, if you have a dream, and let's say, for example, your dream is to become an influencer, a national figure. I don't know what your dream is. That's a huge dream, right? You have to start small. Of course, hindi pwedeng okay, gusto ko maging influencer, makapaggawa ng YouTube account. Tapos after a week, wow, ano na ako? 10,000 subscribers. No, that's not it. You have to start small. And you have to do something now. Like, yes, start now. Kung anong dream mo, gusto mo maging doktor, start now. Baka mag-download ka ng mga e-books, magbasa ka ng mga medical books, nursing books, science books, whatever books that you can grab hold of. Prepare for your NMAT. So these are the things that you can do and act now. Next, please. Now, this is my dream. So, very simple dream, study in UP Manila. That was my dream. However, when I took my bachelor's, ang napasahan ko, kasi hindi pala yun pwedeng baguhin, no? Hindi ko alam to eh. So, first time ko mag-UP dapat ako. Pero ang nilagay ko nung nag-a-apply ako, so parang wala pa akong maisip. So, sabi ko, UP Los Baños, BS Biology. Ang second choice ko, DevCom. Nung time na yun, in demand yung nursing. So my mom told me that kung gusto ko mag-doctor, kasi before I wanted to become a medical doctor. So sabi niya sa akin, kasi pag medical doctor tapos BS Bio yung pre-med mo, after mo mag BS Bio, probably you will not wala kang parang career pa na track. Kasi syempre, maraming track pwede ka pag bio. For example, pwede ka mag-teacher, ganun. So sabi niya sa akin, kung gusto mo na nasa medical field ka na, why not medical course ang kunin mo na pre-med? So at that time, sabi ko, nursing yung in demand. So, inisip, kaya lang sa Los Baños ako pumasa, ang nursing nasa UP Manila. So sabi ko, shucks, kung gusto ko mag-nursing at ayoko mahuli sa mga kabatch ko, I have to study nursing elsewhere, hindi UP. So during the time, hindi ako nakapag-study sa UP. So I declined yung BS Bio ko na UPLB and I studied at St. Louis University, Baguio City ng BS Nursing. After I finished my nursing, talagang nandun pa rin sa akin yung dream ko na mag-UP. So, I applied for master's sa UP. Next, please. I graduated sa UP. So, finally, woo! Ayan. So, nakapagsablay. Ewan ko ba, bakit ganun? So, that's just my dream at that time. And I was able to achieve that dream. Not just that, hindi ko alam that my master's thesis during the time will be chosen in different conferences. So, when I was studying in UP Manila, yung master's thesis ko, pinasa ko siya sa conference and I was able to go to South Korea. Next slide, please. And so, ayan. So, nakapunta ako sa South Korea to present my research, to represent yung school and of course yung Philippines doon sa conference na yun. And it's amazing. So, I was able to receive the Early Career Research Award. So, that's so amazing, right? So, kasama ko mga Koreans, Indonesians, and all Southeast Asian yung iba. So, that was an amazing dream. Siyempre, na-achieve mo na yung dream na yon. For example, ikaw may dream ka, na-achieve mo na. On to the next. So, my next dream is to give back to the community, to the academic community. That's why we founded ABC, which is Above and Beyond Classrooms. Actually, dito kami nag-meet ng president niya, si Kian Hermosa. So, we founded this to give back, like give free seminars to schools. So we went, syempre, dito kami based sa Laguna. So we went dito sa Laguna and we gave out seminars. And it's amazing how the students reacted, how they participated. It's just so amazing kasi we are able to give back. So if you want to be part of our community, next slide, please like our ABC uh, fa- group page. Yeah, it's page in on Facebook, ABC Above and Beyond Classrooms. So after the dream, my next dream was, paano na yun? Hindi na matutuloy yung yung seminars namin sa mga schools kasi may pandemic. So sabi ng husband ko, mahal, why not set up a YouTube channel tapos dun ka na lang mag-webinar. So I was thinking, YouTube channel? Maging YouTuber? Parang hindi naman yun, Pero sabi ko, oh, sige, I'll try that. So that was the next dream. And that dream, so we started last week of May. And to this date, we have like 10,000 plus subscribers. And we are already monetized, a YouTube partner. So it's amazing. So in the span of 2 months, we're able to achieve that. So in Everyday Learner. So if you want to be part of that, also please subscribe. You can get some certificates there as well. Now, how can you develop a healthy mind? Okay. What are the things that we can do? So let me give you just this very simple key: live inspired. That is your key: live inspired. Next, please. Now, what do I mean when I say live inspired? Next please, stands for invest in your possibilities. Live inspired, invest in your possibilities. What are the things that you can do right now? Invest on that. N, neutralize naysayers. Are there people who are telling you negative things, or are you yourself telling you negative things? Stop it. Okay, how do you stop it? Simple. Okay, you stop your negative thoughts by, do you know the words abracadabra? Magic words. Di ba? Pag may nagma-magic, abracadabra. Abracadabra is translated as I create as I speak, or as I speak, I create, which means there is power in your words. Kaya abracadabra. So what do you do? First, if there are negative things in your mind, acknowledge them. Acknowledge these negative things. Letter B stands for breathe. Breathe. Letter R, so abra to. R, release. Release those negative things. Release those negative things. So for example, you have, let's say you're feeling, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. You acknowledge that. So in my mind, I'm feeling I cannot do this. Let's breathe. Let's release. And once you are able to release that negative thought, you have now to alter that. Alter that. How do you alter that? Exchange it with something negative. Instead of saying you cannot do it, you say I can do it. S, surround yourself with inspiration. Sometimes I do this. I don't know if you do this. If there are toxic people on your timeline or on your friend list, they're always saying negative things. They're always ranting and all those things. It's good to unfollow them. It's up to you if you will block them or unfriend them, but for me, I'll just unfollow them so that I will not find their rants on my news feed because it affects me. So surround yourself with inspiration, people who love you, people you love, things you love. If you're inspired by books, creativity, make your own in your rooms, like post quotes there. Just surround yourself with inspiration. P, prepare your mind to succeed. I insist you will, then do. If you have, if you want to let's say, assert yourself to doing something and then do it. R, recharge. Sometimes it's tiring. Inspiration is not, it's not, once you're inspired now, it goes down, right? So it's not like always 100%. Like just like your cell phone batteries, you need to recharge your inspiration. So recharge. E, exceed your own expectations. Of course, you have your expectation of yourself, of your future. Exceed them. go beyond them. D, distribute your inspiration to others. I guess this is very important, especially to those leaders, youth leaders who are listening to this webinar, is once you're inspired, influence others to be inspired as well. Okay, so I guess that's the end of my webinar. I hope that I did not exceed the time. So that is how you develop a healthy mind. Thank you for listening.
Thank you
Wow,
so
let
much,
me
Mom,
speak
for
like,
that very
yeah,
informative presentation. I was really touched. I was like listening and I really felt
the
everything.
talk really like goes back to home. Like I think it's personal for all of us. Like this feeling of loneliness and isolation, it's something that it's universal, and it's
Yes.
somehow very reassuring to hear those words coming from you. So ayan nga, maraming salamat sa inyong pagbabahagi ng kaalaman tungkol sa aming nutrisyon. Para sa inyong mga katanungan, tatanggap kami ng mga tanong mula sa inyo upang mabigyan natin ng linaw ang inyong mga nasa isip ngayon.
Nangyari po lamang na mag-comment gamit ng ating mga official na hashtag KK Kalusugan, hashtag Ekonomiya, hashtag Malusog na KK Katawan, at hashtag Malusog na KK Kaisipan. At ibigay lamang ang inyong mga katanungan sa ating comment section.
Ayan, keep those questions coming, guys. I'm sure you're curious about a lot of things, so it's going to be a very healthy discussion. Ayan, first question coming from Siti Amina Abing. What is your view on the many different interventions that exist to address loneliness? Ayan.
Okay, thank you for that question, City. Now, technically, when you have, let's say, when you're lonely, one of the things that we do is we have this counseling, like peer mentoring. So, yun yung way para you can actually have your peer group or somebody you trust to just, open up your feelings. And there are several exercises. Now, for me, that's a good thing to have. Now, for example, one of the things that young people do kasi ngayon to, let's say, relieve themselves of loneliness is that they rant on social media. Now, for me, sa akin hindi yon healthy kasi your social media is a public forum where people can see your rants. So what you can do instead is do the journaling. So that's another intervention for loneliness is if you feel lonely, you can use your journal, pen, paper. Pwede ka mag-draw, pwede ka mag-write ng poem. Alam niyo ba yung mga magagandang mga songs, poems, lyrics are actually brought about by these feelings, feelings of loneliness, feelings of heartbreak, tama, 'di ba? So why not capitalize on that? So yun yung I think you can just do that instead of like ranting on social media. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mama. I kind of feel attacked, pero yes, tama nga naman na we should, we should,
Yes, we all are attacked on that statement.
we should write it on our journals instead para maging personal yung may one-on-one communication tayo with ourselves. Ayan, from Micaela Eusebio. How does one find the will to dream? Where does the sense of purpose stem from? And are the emotions of dreamless people or those who lack purpose invalid or unjustified? Yan, mahaba-haba yung
Mm.
question niya.
Okay, oo, mahaba yung question niya. Okay, so let me try to answer this. How does one find the will to dream? Okay, I guess from my personal experience, it has something to do with what actually it what shapes you, no? So it includes your personality, your past experiences, and what you're passionate about. Now, the problem now is some people are not as passionate as others. Kasi tulad ng sabi mo, dreamless people. Now, it's possible that they have a dream and yet di lang nila yon na verbalize or hindi pa lang nila yon, alam mo yun, because some people are not self-aware. Um, more people are not self-aware than those who are self-aware. So, ibig sabihin, wala ka pa masyadong intrapersonal journey na ina-undergo para malaman mo ano ba talaga yung purpose and meaning ng life. So, what you can do is you can undergo some of these journeys. Like, you can go for counseling, you can also go, assess, may mga inventory, ano ba yung mga, what am I good at? Yung mga ganon. And then do some of these tests. And once you get to that point na parang, ito pala yung mga bagay na magaling ako, and maybe one of those things you'll be passionate about. Pero possible din na hindi mo pa alam kung anong passionate ka kasi hindi ka pa nagtatry. So some dreamless people or sa mga tao na wala pa silang dream kasi hindi pa nila siguro natatagpuan yung talagang alam mo yon, gigising nung kanilang passion. And actually, that is very sad for me kasi iniisip ko, pag ako wala akong dream, parang naisip ko, anong purpose no ano, masyadong monotonous ang buhay pagka ganun kasi gising ka, kain, tulog, alam mo yun, parang yun ang gagawin ko. But if I have a dream, then every waking moment, my purpose. Yan. So, I think one of the things that you can do, of course, it's not invalid. Our feelings of discouragement, disillusionment, these are not invalid kasi these are our experiences. Pero it doesn't really mean then na we need to stay on that track na dito na lang ako kasi wala akong dream, no? So it's good for us to look at ourselves, be self-aware, and do some intrapersonal journey. Okay, yun lang.
Ayan. Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Especially for people, especially for the youth who are confused with how we're going to circulate around this pandemic, if their dreams or their academic studies would actually succeed. Because we're in a very weird point in time where we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So that's very insightful po. So ayan, for the third question, let's see them. Ayan. I'm sure like a lot of us really during the pandemic, especially like our batchmates are really going through that. Oh, ayan. MJ Estrellas, how is it when, ayan, we're the third question. How is it when you really have this dream pero had the feeling that you're not really good at it? So how are you going to know if that dream is really for you, or like even if the skills that you have like do not fit in? So maybe let's get some insights on that as well.
Siguro you have to ask yourself, how did you come about with that dream in the first place? Kasi baka yung dream na yon, alam mo yun, baka napasa siya sa'yo, okay? Or meron kang hinahangaan na tao na yun yung dream niya. Tapos, na-adopt mo yon, naka-identify ka sa kanya. So, yun na lang din yung dream ko. Kasi, as I've told you, usually, your dream is parang with the skills that you have. Pero, pwede rin naman na, for example, you have that dream. So, because of you're inspired to actually do or to achieve that dream, you can acquire the skills along the way. For example, gusto mo maging YouTuber, pero hindi ka ganun ka-articulate. So, you can learn it kasi speaking skill naman siya. So, I think, I'm not sure if I answered that correctly, pero ganon. I think yun yung, check mo muna if that dream is really yours. And if it's yours, then make a way for your skills to be upgraded for you to be able to achieve that dream.
Ayan, thank you so much, ma'am. Kasi some of us naman kasi, we think that it's actually what we want. Pero since we see so much things on the internet and we have borrowed dreams na kaya sometimes we get confused if this is actually what we're passionate about.
True, that's right.
Yan, so again from Micaela Eusebio, what if you lack the motivation to do those things and help yourself?
Okay. So motivation can come either externally or internally. Pero yung external motivation, applicable lang siya if it translates into internal motivation. Kasi for example, let me give you a dream. Ang dream ko, maging 36, 24, 36. Dream yun. Pero, hindi mo na hallucination ba? Wait lang. So, dream yun. So, if that's my dream, people may motivate me, let's say for example, to exercise. Ayan, so may mga videos of exercise. But unless that translates into an internal motivation, like ako na talagang nagdesisyon that I will do dieting, that I will exercise, that I will achieve that ideal body weight, then that will not come to pass. So if you lack that motivation to do those things and help yourself, then I guess what others can do is to motivate you externally, but it will always come from you. Kailangan mong desisyonan siya. Okay, so it's a matter of decision. Like, didesisyonan ko ito for myself. You know, you need to do that. Kasi you cannot put that on the shoulder of others. Because sometimes some personalities, they don't want to decide for themselves. So there's a tendency that they allow others to decide for them. So if you put that on them, that's external motivation. Hindi mo rin siya mapagpapatuloy in the end when the going gets tough. Pero if it came from you, tutuloy mo siya kasi dinesisyonan mo siya. Okay.
Alright, and again guys, it's a matter of I can versus can I. So you really have to push the will to your dreams, like what mom said. You always have to do with action and your perception of it. Ayan, so we will entertain one more question from Lady Kyla. How to handle people who are older than you invalidates your dreams. Oh, this is very relevant, I
Yes.
guess.
Okay. Let me give you a story for that. There is this man who is actually very strong for his size. He's also tall. And then yung tatay niya, farmer and hog raiser. So, nasa farm siya. So sabi niya, parang ayoko maging farmer katulad mo, daddy. So sabi niya, anong gusto mong gawin sa buhay mo? Wala kang purpose. Ito na nga, may farm ka nga, ganun ganon. So ini-encourage siya mag-farm. So sabi nitong hog racer na 'to. So parang di ko alam kung anong purpose ko. So one day yung kanyang friend in-invite siya sa gym. Ayan, sa gym. Tapos nakita niya yung mga naggi-gym, nagte-training sa gym, ganyan, ang laki ng katawan, ganyan. Tapos tinry niya, and na-enjoy niya. So sabi niya sa tatay niya, gusto ko maging bodybuilder. So sabi ng tatay niya, ano ba yan? Ano ba klaseng pangarap yan? Wala ka kwenta-kwenta pangarap. Ano bodybuilder? Eh, farmer tayo. Dito ka, ganyan. And then eventually, sabi niya, hindi, gusto ko talaga. And he was, later known as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yan, so, siya yun. So, it's his story when he was a boy, a teenager. So, what can I say here is that when there are people older than us who tries to invalidate our dreams, it's good for us to understand where they're coming from. Pwedeng they're coming from their concern for you. Let's say, for example, yung dream mo, parang sa kanila, in their experience, wala siya patutunguhan sa kanilang pagkakita, no? Or pwede naman, sa tingin lang, di mo kaya yon. Pero it doesn't mean tama sila. It just means that is where they're coming from. Pwedeng they love you and they don't want you to be to experience hardships kasi halimbawa mahirap yung pangarap mong yan, ganon. So what you do then is to actually consider, so you tell them that I understand where you're coming from, pero right now this is my dream and I would really appreciate your support. And makikita lang din nila yung resilience mo. Kasi kung di ka nagbabago, yun pa rin talaga yung pangarap mo. Eventually, they will they will validate it. They will say, yun nga. Di ba? Just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, doon siya yumaman. Di ba? Doon siya nakilala sa kanyang bodybuilding. So, you will prove them wrong eventually if you stay true doon na yun talaga yung pangarap mo. Okay, Kyla?
All right. Thank you so much, Ma'am, for answering those questions. I'm sure that we still have a lot of questions, but then again, you can learn for yourself or reach out to Ma'am via her email or her very own YouTube account. You can learn more during that. So yun nga, subscribe guys. At this point in time, we'll be presenting the certificate speaker. Ayan. So let me read the citation. Kapitan sa Karya ng Katipunan, sertipiko ng pagkikilala ay binigay kay Cherry Ann Durante. Maraming salamat sa inyong bukas na loob ng pagkikibahagi at pagiging tagapagsalita sa ikaunang virtual event para sa buwan ng week ng nutrisyon na pinamagatang KK Kalusugan Tangkad Sagad si Kabatawan ng Nasyonal na Pangkabataang Organisasyong Kabataan sa Kriteria ng Katipunan na ginanap noong 2 ng Hulyo 2020. Ipinagkaloob ngayong 2 ng Hulyo 2020 sa lungsod ng Zamboanga City, Zamboanga del Sur. Signed by John Kenneth Alipala, Mindanao President, and Kian Joseph Hermosa, National President. Ayan, once again from KKK, ma'am, thank you so much for being the speaker for today's webinar.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening.